It's the first Saturday of February, which means it's time for the Kansas City Radio Control Association's Swap and Shop, otherwise known as the KCRC Annual Swap Meet, which happens at the John Knox Pavilion in Lee Summit, Missouri, on the southeast corner of Kansas City metro area. Now, one of my favorite things about going to Kansas City on a Saturday is that I can listen to local radio station KKFI Community Radio. They usually have some classic jazz programming on Saturday. So this is what I look like on my way there. And this is what the swap meet looks like when I get there. Now, they give the vendors an hour to set up. They had a little bit of time to set up the night before too, but they give us an hour to set up in the morning, and then they let the seething masses of humanity come in the door at 9 o'clock. This is about 8:30. They already have tons of airplanes there. And you know, airplanes are supposed to be lightweight, so if you got a ton of airplanes, that's a lot of airplanes. Now, the club officials told me that they sold 136 tables, plus they sold some extra floor space. Usually if you buy 2 tables, then you get some floor space. And they sold some that was just floor space. And they always sell out every year. I've been going to this thing since the mid-90s. And it just keeps getting bigger. So if you like a good swap meet, if you're ever in the Kansas City area in February, check it out. First Saturday in February, usually. I guess every year that's the formula. Anyway, as you can see, all the vendors have not arrived yet. There's still a couple of empty tables, but rest assured they'll be filled up by the time the public comes in the door. They always have lots of airplanes. Now, I remember 25 years ago you could take an airplane to a swap meet and get pretty good money for it, but for some reason now you just can't get good money for a built airplane anymore. Kits always command a pretty high price, but not so much with the built airplanes. This building is actually shaped like a pyramid. I don't know if you can see the ceiling there, but under the middle of the pyramid, there's, 3, 4, 5, about 6 rows of tables. And then there's 2 end sections opposite each other with 3 rows of tables each. And then all that floor space up there in the front. Here's the other side section, just airplanes galore. There's a couple of guys that come in with new merchandise, but mostly it's a bunch of guys trying to get rid of their old stuff. There's a table right there that had a Sato 120 on it. My buddy Sam told me he couldn't make it to the swap meet, so he wanted me to get him a Sato 120. So I found that one there. It was for $150, and I called him and he said, yeah, go for it. I thought it was a pretty good price. But I had only $85 in my pocket, so I couldn't get it. I had to wait until I sold some balsa wood. And here's my table over here with the balsa wood on it. Now, the club officials from KCRC told me that they would like me to share with everyone the information about the Build and Fly program that they're doing in association with the Experimental Aircraft Association at Lee Summit Airport. What we're looking at here is the KCRC flying field at Fleming Park. If you ever get a chance, go in there and check it out. But the Build and Fly program is where they mentor children and adolescents to build radio-controlled planes and fly them. A lot of aviation careers have started with radio control models, so it's a worthy cause. If you want to donate time, funds, or other resources to the program, contact someone from KCRC or the EAA and look for links in the video description to find where you can contact those folks. It's a worthy cause. Check it out. Now here's some footage after the public came in. And I don't know if you've met the public before. Maybe you know them. Here they are. A lot of planes are starting to walk out the door. Going around the same direction I went the first time around. As you can see, the tables are all filled up. There's one of those guys with the new merchandise. I think he was selling control line stuff there. Maybe that was the other guy. No, it looks like he has propellers. I have a friend that I ran into. He used to own a hobby shop for a short time 20 years ago, and he still has a bunch of leftover hardware and propellers and all kinds of stuff. He hadn't had a table in years, though. So I'm going to head towards my table here in the middle section. Now, I was telling you about my friend Sam that couldn't make it, and I was trying to buy him a Sato 120. I found a Sato 120. There's a fellow here that was set up right next to me. Somebody in his town died, and he wanted one of the planes, so he just ended up buying all of them. And then he was trying to sell the old man's airplanes. They're here on the table. You can see the ones I've frozen on. There's that PT-19 I noticed had a Sato 120 on it. So I asked him if he would sell me the engine for $100, and he said, give me a little while. There he is in the gray shirt, that's the guy. He said, give me a little while to see if I can sell it for a little more, and if I can't, then you can have it for $100. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. Now let's just walk down the row here. There's a really very pink cloud dancer. It was really well built, but I don't know if I can handle those colors. I think they built it for the breast cancer awareness fun fly or something like that. And after a while, you start getting kind of burned out. Boy, there's just a lot of airplanes here. A lot of planes, a lot of electronic stuff. You can see everybody starting to look pretty haggard. It just goes on and on. Had a really good time though. Sold a lot of balsa wood, saw a bunch of old friends. Then I had to pack all my leftovers in my car. And I had a surprise for Sam too. I told him I bought him a Sato 120 and I had accessories attached. You should have seen me trying to stuff this thing in this little Corolla. I tell you, it was a little bit easier getting it back out, but that was still a challenge. And now I have to figure out how to get it to Sam's house.